Welcome everyone to the Woodbury County Courthouse. This is a 4 p.m. set time regarding a public hearing on the proposed property tax levy for FY 2024 to 2025. That is July 1 of 2024 to June 30th, 2025. This has been set by Iowa Code recently, and this extra opportunity has been given for the purposes stated. I spoke to Assistant County Attorney Josh Woodman down there before the meeting and asked if it'd be appropriate, given the newness of this, to ask Michelle Scaff with our ARDA's office and Dennis Butler with our finance department to give an overview of what this is, why this is now required, and then we can open it up to any public hearing citizen comments. So would that be amenable to the board? All right. Michelle, would you mind?
Yes, so what you may all be here for today is the notice that you received in the mail that looks a little bit like this. So every individual who is a taxpayer in Woodbury County received one of these notices. This is the first year that the auditor has been required to send these out. What this notice describes is 3 different public hearings. The hearing that you're here today for is the Woodbury County public hearing, which is in the middle section of this front page of the letter. The first part of the section describes the school, and that is whatever school district that you are a taxpayer in should be in that first section. So they'll have a public hearing date and time for that school. The middle section, as I said, is Woodbury County, which is what we're doing the public hearing for today. And the last section is the city that you would be paying your taxes in. So there's a different meeting date and time for each one of those authorities. There's also a phone number listed on each of those that you can contact that authority to discuss their budgets with them individually. But if we just focus on this middle section that's on your notice, the first column represents the current property tax that you'll be paying on this year. That's a set amount that was budgeted last year by the county. The second end section says the proposed tax. That's what we're talking about today. Those are the amounts that the county is going to be asking for their budget. That amount can go down, but it cannot go up. So that would be the worst case scenario of what would be asked for the county. The back of the form gives you a few comparisons of what if your house was valued at $100,000 this year, what you would pay in taxes compared to what a house would be valued at $100,000 next year of what you would have for your levy for the taxes. None of this is a bill. None of this is set in stone. These numbers added together will not be what your levy is. There's other authorities that play into that calculation that you'll see later on, probably in July or August. Dennis, did you have anything to add to that?
No, that was explained very good. The only thing I'd like to express here, the state is using a $100,000 assessed value for this year and next year. There are many things that affect the difference in what your taxable value would be, such as rollbacks, also new homestead tax credits. It doesn't account for any increases in your valuation. So if you had an increase in your valuation, which a lot of residents in Sioux City had big increase, and rural people did too on their homes and things, this may not hold true 100% because you're paying additional taxes on a big additional valuation, but the rollback took care of a lot of it. So this form probably needs to be a little bit better next year to explain that, because there are items that will affect the 100,000 base from year to year. But it does show, your taxes are going down. That's why I've been telling everybody who's called me, your taxes are going down with the exception of increased values that may outweigh the rollback.
And if I could just add one thing that's helpful on this document is that it shows the 3 major taxing bodies. In my case, Sioux City School District, the county and the city. Obviously, the city is the highest as far as a percentage share, and then comes the school district in Sioux City's case, and then the county. Now, we're in a little bit of this is the first time doing this, so we have, we had a scheduled meeting before this. We have our regular 4:30 meeting after this. I want to make sure we have time for any citizen comments. What we do in the rules that the board has approved is that anyone that wishes to speak gives their name and address, and then they're given 3 minutes uninterrupted to speak and address the board. I'd encourage you not to try to engage in back and forth just because that would take away from someone else's comment if they have it, and also the board as well. If the board wishes to address anything during a public hearing, I'd ask them to do so at the end, and to give preference to anyone that would like to speak. Worst case scenario, if there's more discussion from the board that would like to ensue that cannot, we do have a relatively short agenda today for our regular Tuesday meeting, and so we have board concerns, citizen concerns at the conclusion of our 4:30 regular business meeting. So with that, if there's no opposition, then I would officially open the public hearing. To anyone who would wish to address the board, please approach and do so. And Michelle over there will keep time, so we have that.
It's more of a question than it is a comment. In the middle section, you've got it's stating reason proposed property taxes exceed current property tax, and then you have them listed.
Can you start, you got to state name and address for the clerk?
Tom Morgan, Mobile, Iowa.
Thank you.
Because this is, to me, what you have listed here should already be included in the property taxes already and not something that's extra. In addition, you don't have a dollar amount listed for the wage increases. You've got a percentage, you don't have a dollar. You know what your payroll dollars are, so you should have a dollar for us there. And your LEC facility is an ongoing albatross that I don't see changing for 20 years. So, what's in there? What's being hid in there that we should know about that you're not coming forth with? So those are more of a question than a statement, but I think everybody in the county needs to know that.
Mr. Chair?
Briefly.
Can we ask either our, because it is an information request, reasonably, can we ask for our budget analyst or deputy auditor to address the question rather than waiting to the end? If we know just approximately what the amount is for wages?
Yeah, if you know approximately, otherwise you can get them the information afterwards if you'd like the specific dollar amounts. These are text boxes that had to be filled in to keep this to, it costs money to mail these out, so we don't want to we talked about having an editorial, so to speak, but the editorial is really the weekly budget meetings that take place here from first week of January on through now, so. But we can get you that information.
Joyce Van Hollen, 2647 South Cedar, Sioux City, Iowa. My question is, who is going to assess my property? Your employee? Your assessor? Is that correct? Okay,
That is
this-
correct, your city assessor.
This courthouse has a habitual habit of being corrupt. Judge Jeff Neary changed the court records October 26, 2009. Judge Tott lied on the court records, saying that he has no electronic record from the beginning. Check that out on Lewis versus Van Hollen. So you want me to trust that your assessment is gonna be correct? When this courthouse has a habitual habit of being liars? Come on, give me a break. I did 21 years, 10 months, and 3 days with the Marine Corps, and you want me to trust you? Give me a break. I trust you about as much as I trust Al-Qaeda, which I don't trust them. You want me to trust you? No, you earn my trust. And right now, I don't trust you. None of you. So give me the hard drive. Give it to him. Give it to the FBI. Prove me the liar, because I can tell you I didn't lie. Give it to him. Give it to her. Give it to him. We'll start with Judge Tot saying that there is no electronic record. I got it from the beginning. Come on, who's the liar? And you want me to trust your assessor? I don't.
Anyone else to speak during the public hearing?
Adam Weber, Danbury, Iowa. You say this is worst case scenario. How much is that gonna raise my taxes? Worst case scenario. I'm pretty sure that's what all of us wanna know. You know, a hard dollar amount.
So on the paper, it shows what the levy was actually decreased by. If your property assessment went up or went down, it'll be based off what your property is assessed at. And you multiply that by the levy rate. So if you know if your house assessment stayed the same, your taxes would go down. If your assessment went up, say 5%, it might only go up about 4%. It's based off assessments and levy rate. And we can only speak to the county's portion of the levy, because that's what we're responsible for. So whether your school district or your city, if you're in the city limits of Danbury, that would be up to those levy rates as well.
Okay. Well, I
Mr.
just
Chair,
wondered.
Yes.
might I address?
Sure.
If you would like to call the auditor's office, and I hate to say this because I'm gonna get a lot of calls because I'm the only person that would be doing this. It's 279-6702. We can do an estimate on what your taxes will be. It's an estimate only, and it's based on the levies that were from last year, because we do have some potential knowns, but until April 30th, none of the authorities can submit their numbers to us to come up with what the levy is. So it's unknown what the levy's gonna be until after we get those budgets to certify from all of the authorities. So right now, we can estimate based on what we know the rollback is. So the state issues a rollback, which is like 46, it's a lower rollback, which means you pay on every $100, you pay on $46 of that assessment. Last year, it was like 54. So the rollback has went down. So if your assessments went up, the rollback went down, that means that you're gonna be paying on a smaller taxable amount. Now, I can't say if your taxes are gonna go up or down, because it all depends on how much your valuation may have went up before we can estimate that. So until probably, you know, when their budgets come in April, it's May or June that we might know what the actual levies will be to give you an accurate estimate of what those will be.
So are you guys lowering your levy here, the way it looks, to kind of try and keep taxes the same? Is that what you're trying to do here, even though the valuations went up?
Yes.
Okay.
And we understand it's a confusing format to read for the first time. A lot of this was done through, you know, obviously the state regulations. So the format is county to county. It's, you know, there's requirements as far as what can be in there and what can't be in there. So that's why we're doing our best to explain it. Thank you.
Yeah, this form is strictly regulated by the state of how this form needs to look and what goes in every box on this form. So this was not developed by the county to show you. These are numbers from the county and the authorities, but the state set the parameters of exactly what this form needs to look like.
Anyone else to speak during the public hearing?
Karen Thornton, 2415 South Hennepin. Okay, maybe I'm not understanding, but I'm kind of hearing that hopefully the taxes are going to go down a little bit. But I just paid my taxes, and it's $248 more this year than it was the previous year. So when is it going to go down? I mean, that's quite a bit going up.
You'll actually feel the tax decrease next fall and a year from now, next spring. In your taxes, if your valuation hardly changed or changed a small amount, you will be paying lesser taxes.
Okay, because my valuation went up quite a bit last
Okay, now that
time.
depends, and like I say, Michelle can do it, or I can do it, take you as an individual basis to actually show you what it will be. Now, it's gonna be hard to do because we don't know all the tax rates yet, till probably May or June. But we can tell you what's gonna be, and rest assured, I'm pretty sure it's gonna go down unless your valuation doubled.
No, not quite.
Thank goodness.
Okay, good.
Okay.
Thank you.
And again, we can only speak for our percent of the levy itself, because the county is only one fraction of what you're paying, because there's city and county assessors, there's your school district, WIT has a levy as well. I mean, there's quite a few levies depending on which market or which city you live in.
And all the tax dollar, for every dollar, Woodbury County, in Sioux City only gets 17 cents. The school and the city get about 80%, and then the other 3% goes to various bodies like Ag Extension, City Assessor, Western Altech, things like that. So we only get 17 cents out of a dollar.
Anyone else to speak during the public hearing?
I didn't get her number when she said it.
It's 279-6702.
Thank you.
Yep.
Anyone else to speak during the public hearing? Joshua, if the board, I don't know if the board does, if the supervisors wish to comment here, should the public hearing be closed first?
Sorry, the board can discuss during the public hearing. I don't think there's a separate agenda item for this portion of the
Okay.
meeting, so if you wish to discuss, you should do it now.
Okay. Well, we're at 4:18, we have a 4:30 meeting, so we do have some time if supervisors wish to make any comments that we didn't already make during the budgeting process. Mr. Taylor?
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. I would just say three things can happen with a levy. It can go up, it can stay the same, or it can go down. And this board chose to have the effective levy rate go down. So if you look on the front, countywide, our current tax rate was $7.13, and we're effectively proposing $7.11. We went through 13, 14 different weeks of budgeting in order to make that happen and cut over $1.5 million out of our budget. Some of the things that you, sir, mentioned with the LEC authority, the only thing that's being added is there's a $400,000 maintenance fund that's being directly taxed this year. Everything else is through the bond and other non-property tax sources. The other things that are being listed, for example, $200,000 for a general election, some of these are things that we're mandated to do. And our wage increases for both union and non-union, that was a good question. And I was just wondering, Dennis, because it was asked, and I know we could get that information later, but do you have a general approximation of how much 3% for wage plan and the unions otherwise?
I'd have to confer with Michelle. We can get that number, yes.
Okay.
Because
That
it involves 6 different unions, plus our wage plan, plus our elected and deputies. In fact, every county employee, and yeah, we could come up with that.
I mean, because that number could include a lot of things, though, because when you go through, like, I'm just on page 2 of our budget here, which was in the attorney's office. I mean, you go through organized employees, temp employees, but then there's also FICA and everything else that would also increase based off that percentage. So, employee hospitalization is another aspect. I mean, that was an 18% increase over last year. You know, a lot of the health insurance costs were dramatically higher than the previous year. Typically, it's been our approach not to raise levies and tax additionally, but use the growth that's happened in Woodbury County from new homes being built, new businesses, expansions, and the growth from the tax created by those new buildings and new taxable value to cover the growth in the budget. So the budget itself is maybe, I can't remember the exact number, 2 million higher than last year. But that basically is what our growth was from last year. So for most individual homeowners, with the rollback factor maybe going down, you'll actually pay less in tax unless your valuation shot way up because of an addition or expansion on your own property. So, you know, I looked up a few of your properties while you're speaking. My guess is that the calculation for the county portion is gonna be reduced for you.
And again, it's always a challenge for the Board of Supervisors to say anything about individual taxes since we're the third in line as far as proportionate share of most people's property tax bills in the Sioux City metro area. Also throw out there, as far as the, you know, if anyone wants to get involved in this or future budgets, I was recently on a radio program with heads of the school district budgeting process and the city of Sioux City as well. And there's a little bit of a difference in how the Woodbury County Board of Supervisors does it, and that's where we receive budgets on a weekly basis, sometimes twice a week. Before or after our regular Tuesday board meetings, we have several hours dedicated to hearing from our department heads and our elected officials. You know, a lot of these budgets are actually proposed by other elected officials. And the Board of Supervisors, of course, approves them or receives them. But that's the dynamic we do because the county has several different layers of elected officials, I could say. And so that process is very helpful to get people involved in the process, and anyone's always invited to those. I believe they're also recorded, or they can be, yeah, they're recorded. And I look out and I see Doyle Turner here. He's been to several of those budget review sessions, and that's, you know, helpful to have someone that can report back if anyone wants to hook up with anyone that can, you know, witness those. The city, I believe they have long, I think they have like a Saturday session. It's like a very long wrap up with the city manager and a lot of things. It might not be as easy for people to make that as opposed to knowing on this day we're going to be discussing, you know, the sheriff's office, or this date secondary roads, or this date paramedics, things like that. So. Dennis?
And just for information for people here, we will be having one more public hearing on our total budget. That'll be April 30th at 4:45 down here in the same room. So if you want to attend, normally we have nobody show up, but we'd love to have people come out and see what's going on.
And that is the budget certification?
Yes.
That's been moved due to the state legislation as well. It used to be mid-March, and now it's the end of April. So all counties in Iowa have more time to get through that process and also have this additional public hearing worked in. Hearing no other comments from the board, I'll move to close the public hearing.
Second.
Second by Raddick. Hearing no discussion. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed say nay. Passes